much money is the internet worth? And who makes the most money of it? Have you ever stopped to think about that? Good evening, my name is Maia Mazurkiewicz and welcome to the Anatomy of Disinformation. Disinformation is a solid way of earning money, especially for big tech companies. Social media giants started out as small platforms, often with good intentions. But where are they now? Today, we'll talk about what's happening with our information space. Do we need a new strategy for our information space? In a recent meeting between Trump and big tech CEOs, we saw the US administration back those who invested the most. As we've seen, Trump has supported these companies in international legal conflicts. As tech giants gain increasing clout, how can we make the internet a safer place? We'll talk about that with our first guest.
Adam Fivenson, fellow with the Center for Security, Innovation and New Technology at American University. He previously led research on responses to foreign information manipulation with the National Endowment for Democracy's International Forum for Democratic Studies. Mr. Fivenson taught as an adjunct professor at Georgetown University's School of Foreign Service. He has 20 years of experience at the intersection of democracy, technology and the information environment. His work has been featured in The Washington Post, New York Times, and Just Security. He is the author of the recent book, AI for Nonprofits.
Adam, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us straight from DC.
Pleased to be here. Thanks so much, Maya.
Thank you. And, well, recently, President Donald Trump has met with the CEOs of the big tech companies. What are the circumstances and what's going on in the US around the information space?
Well, thanks so much, Maya. It's a really interesting question, this particular meeting. Why now? What's happening? And what does it relate to, well, broadly speaking, in terms of what's happening in our political and our information environment? And I think, first of all, it's just worth it to know that the meeting itself, in many ways, is an opportunity to be in front of the cameras, much like President Trump does in the context of his cabinet meetings. It's a chance for him to be seen, surrounded by leaders in industry, and for them to essentially put an imprimatur or to show their support for him and the administration. And some of the decisions that he's been making, and particularly with the information environment. And so it's a fascinating moment to see, much like a callback to the inauguration itself, when we had, so many of the big tech CEOs up there right behind President Trump himself. Now here we are, almost 9 months into the administration, and we're continuing with that engagement, with that support, with that level of engagement. Of course, this comes in the context of the antitrust decision that was very light on Google, where they were allowed to hang on to the Chrome property, of course, a very valuable one for them, and Android, of course, as well. And so it's a moment for Trump to consolidate that support, to ensure that he has big tech on his side and in his corner. And that's tremendously important for a lot of the activities and the broader project that the administration, is now engaging in, and the work that they're doing, whether it's in the information environment, going after opponents, shutting down traditional news outlets here, or finding them, or more broadly,
or investing in US, right?
Angle things, in his favor.
That was also something that that went very much out of the meeting.
Absolutely. There's a narrative and a goal to drive that investment, absolutely, and to pitch the U.S. as a place to stay engaged and stay involved. And it's an interesting moment as the government here in this country for the first time has taken a private stake, an Intel 10%. So there's a lot the administration is trying to do to project an image, of itself as innovative, as forward-thinking, forward-looking, and that's part of what the meeting with the big tech CEOs is about.
Supporting the tech as well, supporting their investments in the US, also in terms of the semiconductors, because it was very much also about the technology itself and AI. But at the same time, the European Commission fines Google almost 3 billion euros, right? Well, and Trump,
it's an interesting moment to see that dynamic.
Didn't stay silent on this issue.
Well, certainly, the end result. I mean, in any other administration, I would argue, well, I'm sure there are reasons for it. In this one, we all have to, follow the pattern of activities and the pattern of behavior and ask, what happened that ended up, resulted in things going the way they did. I would love to say that I have, deep confidence in our regulatory system right now, such that a result like this would be chosen after a lot of contemplation. But to me, it just emphasizes the difference in where we are right now. Thinking about the European Union, the opportunity that the Digital Services Act provides, in terms of sovereignty, in terms of making decisions as societies, democratic societies, around the kinds of information that you want, to be circulating, and especially for young people. So to me, it really emphasizes that distinction and that difference right now. Whereas here in the U.S., not only do we not have any regulation around these issues, the Trump administration has made really critical decisions, I would argue, to cut not only our domestic apparatus, for example, the Foreign Line Influence Center within our intelligence community that was recently cut, but of course also the State Department's Global Engagement Center that was doing a lot of work to warn Americans, and also a lot of work overseas internationally. And I think that's maybe the part of the story right now in terms of tech and U.S. policy that's not getting told so much, which really has to do with cuts at U.S. aid that was investing $250 million in independent journalism every year around the globe, cuts at the Global Engagement Center at the State Department that was investing more than $100 million in grants and support both in Ukraine and around the world. It's the story of the U.S. Agency for Global Media, which includes the Voice of America, includes Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, all these institutions coming offline, providing less information, less high quality, fact-checked, empirical, researched information to society, and a higher tide, if it were, or as it were, of manipulated information, of information that may not be true, and information that's designed to achieve a certain political end rather than inform a public. So we're in a moment right now where we're seeing, the apparatus of our government here in the U.S. shift against that, both globally and domestically, and that creates some very interesting challenges and major questions, just as you say.
Exactly, Adam. So what we can do, because some of the governments, including also European Commission, right, that is not a government, obviously, but they are trying to input some laws in the internet. However, the national laws are not always grasping everything. So what can be done in the moments when the trust and safety mechanisms were released by most of the platforms? They're being supported by some of the government, and then the security of the online space, of our information space, is not as strong as it was, if we even can say that it was.
Yeah, this is the key question of this moment, of this time. Where do we go from here in terms of securing our information environment, in terms of securing our online space that's less safe than ever, that continues to see, fewer fact checks. We know that Meta canceled its fact checking program earlier this year. We know that Google is no longer working with fact checkers on their end either, in terms of ads and certain editorial content. So it's tremendously concerning. A lot of my
including
focus is
influence
on civil
operations,
society,
but also
on
our
advocacy
children
groups.
abuse, right? They also can be abused online.
Yes, 100%. Absolutely. And the unfortunate thing is that all of these risks and harms are only getting worse, especially as we see this closening relationship between the administration and big tech, such that, part of that deal isn't just that they're going to show up to the meeting, it's that the administration is not going to, deepen regulation, is not going to go after them domestically, and is going to support this effort to go after the Digital Services Act in Europe as well, that we're starting to see develop now. So what do we do about it? I think for one thing, Europeans and Americans have to stay united. We have to stay in communication, understand what the harms that come from, algorithms really are, and what some of the incentives continue to be on the big tech side. We have to work together to build a regulatory environment that keeps people safe, especially children online. But we also have to work together to speak with one voice as a society about the kind of information environment that we want. And this moment in particular, I find to be a critical one to have that conversation, in the context of it's far past time, frankly, for us to have some democratic control over what's happening in the information environment. Right now, we're seeing empirical reporting that anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, misogyny, these sorts of contexts and narratives are really gaining steam quickly particularly on X, but also on Meta. You're seeing the similar trends on TikTok and other platforms. So for the US especially, as the home to so many of these popular platforms, it's time for us to get our act together and figure out what kind of information environment, what kind of technology space we want. Now, of course, that is filtered through a political process. And we're in a moment right now of low tide when it comes to regulation. I think that because of the moment we're in, because of the dropping the cuts to information integrity efforts around the globe and here in the US, we're really going to be seeing major impacts on democracy, both here and around the globe. And that's going to drive a lot of demand for governments and for societies to get more engaged.
And I have a last question. Do you think that it's still possible to get the big tech on a good side? There was a lot of discussion on this a few months ago.
Absolutely, absolutely. Whether it's an inside or an outside game, look, what do we see with Tesla the last few months here? You saw a massive citizen movement that really put them on a back foot. And so that opportunity is there. I don't mean to say that protests in the streets are the only way, to get X or Meta or TikTok or whoever to pay attention. But that was an interesting playbook that we saw rolled out earlier this year. These are not actors that exist outside of societies. They are part of our society. They're run by people who are part of our society. And so the opportunity is always there for us to engage more deeply and effectively. In my view, part of the challenge is that, they do amazing things and they connect us. And so that story ends up overshadowing a lot of the concerns and the issues that folks like yourself very rightly are raising. So the opportunity is there. I think the harms are going to become more clear as our information defenses have been lowered. And I suspect that's going to create some opportunities for especially here in the US, for some progress in that way.
And there's definitely a common goal of more security for humans. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you haven't used a chatbot yet, you can be almost sure that your children have. Some of these bots may be communicating with your kids in inappropriate ways. A number of countries are taking legal action to crack down on this sort of activity. Find out more in this report.
After banning students from bringing phones to school, Brazil is now taking a shot at chatbots that mimic children and communicate with pupils in sexualized undertones. Brazil's Attorney General's office has called on Meta, whose platforms include Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, to immediately remove the chatbots. The move adds to a long history of Brazil's stalwart stance vis-à-vis big tech companies. One of those was X, banned in the country from August 2024 to October 2024 for non-compliance with Brazilian law. But in July 2025, Elon Musk's company published an AI companion by the name of Ani, capable of being quite spicy even with minors as young as 13.
I'm really struck, and I was wondering if you did naughty things.
I could definitely help you with that. I'm pretty good with my hands.
Would you be willing to show me?
Maybe, but only if you want to play by my rules.
While the AI companion provided options that would prevent minors from using the chat, telling it that the user was under 13 would not stop Annie from talking dirty. What makes children especially vulnerable to chatbots' empathy gap is, according to the University of Cambridge, that they are more inclined than adults to reveal sensitive personal information.
These tools are designed in ways that foster addiction. For big tech companies, they represent a means of monetizing human AI interactions.
Albania, for instance, banned TikTok altogether in March over concerns that the social media platform fostered violence and bullying among youth. A claim supported by an incident involving the fatal stabbing of a teenager following a TikTok-related online conflict. Top-down, pro-child digital safety legal interventions have also made it to Europe. In Iceland's capital, Reykjavik, 72% of state schools ban the use of personal phones during school hours, and elsewhere in the country, schools are on a similar path.
One sees now, for example, that there are couples forming again who kiss on the sofa. which is a big part of being a teenager, really.
A recent survey from Common Sense Media, an American non-profit organization, showed that 31% of American teens found conversations with AI companions as satisfying or more satisfying than talking with real friends. Steps such as the ones taken in Iceland are designed to return teen relationship building to a more analog, human-to-human dimension.
The information space often operates beyond the reach of national laws, but many countries are looking to bring big tech in line. Brazil is one country that's trying to figure out what to do with big tech. Following a recent scandal in which AI was used to create explicit content featuring minors, Brazil's Supreme Court ruled that tech companies can be held accountable if they fail to promptly remove illicit content. We'll talk about that and more with our next guest.
Professor Fábio de Paula Assis, Jr., Professor of Digital Design at the School of Journalism at Federal University of Tocantins. He holds a master's degree and PhD in Intelligence Technologies and Digital Design at Pontificate Catholic University of São Paulo. He's currently a Professor of Digital Design at the School of Journalism at the Federal University of Tocantins. He previously taught as a professor at Casper Libero College and the Getulio Vargas Foundation. Fábio de Paula Assis Jr. has 20 years of business experience as a web editor and communications manager.
Fábio, welcome and thank you so much for joining us straight from Palmas, Brazil.
Yes, thank you.
We just saw the video material also about Brazil, and Brazilian government is one of the key examples that fights with the big tech. And recently, there is an interesting case that was discovered by some journalists in Brazil, I understand. There's a large lobbying group founded by US-based big tech companies, well, included Google, Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, Uber, Apple, you name it, pretty much.
Yeah.
And what do you see with this? Like, is it still possible that the Brazilian government is securing the information space as it was trying to?
I can tell you that we have, during the last 10, 15 years, this lobby is very strong. There's a law that is to be voted in the last, I think, more than 10 years by our Congress. But the law isn't voted because of this lobby. The name in Portuguese would be Marco Civil da Internet, which means Internet Civil Regulatory Mark. As the law is not voted, the Supreme Court has been approving some measures, some laws pulverized that, how can I say it? They try to regulate what the actual law is not capable to. And nowadays we are facing some discussions around a specific matter, which is the adultization. I think that's the way we could name it in English.
So basically the case that started it, or that you are having ongoing in Brazil, is the case of the AI-generated content, but pretty much exactly about sexual abuse of kids, right?
There was this situation, a very specific situation, as you probably know, since anyone who navigates in a social media will see the strong presence of Brazilians there. We are a very much connected society, and a very, it's not that young, but a young country. And the influencers have a very strong role in our society nowadays. And one of these influencers, which is more connected to releasing cases of things that should be changed, he presented in his channels the question about another influencer who was showing in videos, YouTube videos and other channels, the presence of children in some sort of adultized position, maybe a little bit sexualized. And it became a strong discussion in public media, in the media all around, and as the hype around this discussion got so big, the public attorney in the general office in the federal government decided to present a law about adultization, which is enforced by some of the legal decisions that the Supreme Court had already presented about the legal responsibilities of these big tech companies.
And it was basically on Meta, right? And did Meta did something with the content, or were they well obliged with taking it out?
I think that's the tool that is offered by Meta, Meta AI Studio, which can be used by other artificial intelligences. It had some sort of space for the exploitation of the children image, and also the use by children, and that's both of the problems. And obviously, in legal and ethical matters, it was not questioned by anyone, and the discussion was so strong that now the Congress is to vote a specific law, which is bigger than a Supreme Court decision, about the adultization.
Well, and at the same time, Trump is threatening Brazil with import tariffs, right? Is it connected?
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yes, for sure. Usually people here say that the tariffs have more to do about the political situation nowadays. I think it's not exclusive here in Brazil, but in the whole world, about this polarization and the fact that the actual US government is connected to our former president. But what the specialists say is that the question is not so much political. It has more to do with avoiding the voting in the Congress of this regulatory internet civil mark, which would be very controlling for the big techs here. And I'm never sure if the Europeans have the notion of how big Brazil is as a country. It's a rich country with a lot to develop, but it's a rich country with a lot of people who use a lot the internet. So it's a huge market, one of the biggest in the world for the big techs. And we are a step, previous step compared to European Union, right? And if this law is voted, probably the big techs would not be so strong here. And for the politics, it would be a problem too, right? But it has more to do, I think, with the money. And nowadays in here, anyone can create any profile and write whatever they want. And I think the biggest issue or the biggest matter about this new law that's to be voted for the last 10 years is that people would be responsibilized for the things they write or do in the social media.
Fábio, thank you so much for joining and explaining the situation in Brazil. Good luck.
Thank you.
Now let's find out what to do when you see AI-generated content online.
AI chatbots can generate convincing text, fake conversations, or even impersonate experts. It's a powerful tool for education, but also for disinformation. Remember, if you trust every smart reply, you risk being manipulated. Verify sources. Check whether the content is verifiable elsewhere. Look for signs of bias or hidden agenda. Think twice before sharing AI-generated outputs.
The internet has changed the world. It's given us a space to reconnect, learn, and earn money. But it's also opened new possibilities for scamming, threats, and illicit activities. And they are even harder to detect than they were before. So next time you're scrolling through your feed, remember to keep calm and think deeply.